Welcome, everybody, to the N Word for Nerd podcast. We are here and we are back to the OG, the original cast. This ain't no substitute. This ain't no new formula Coke. This is no Pepsi Crystal Clear. This is just us. Welcome, everybody. As you,
We
if you don't
fired
know,
Jaren.
we were going to get to that in a second. But yes, for those who don't know, we fired Jaren. We realized we didn't need his tokenism, and we figured that we can make it all on our own. But if this episode is very poorly reviewed, he may show back up.
He'll be
But
back next
going
week.
with that being said, let's introduce, as always, my original, initial, inspirational co-host, the Duke of all nerds, Jason. What's going on?
It's a good day. It's been a great day today. Great weekend for movies. It's been awesome. Been good.
All right, I guess you guys are used to hearing us senselessly talk. So today we have a very full roster of things. If you are listening just to this intro and you're like, man, I want to hear all the stuff they're talking about because this just may be a clip and not a whole thing, we have all various clips about all different things. You can find it on all of our sites on YouTube, Facebook, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Anchor FM under Head Canon Circus. Today's show, we will be talking about the Superman being bi controversy. We'll be talking about DC fandom. We will talk about Halloween Kills, The Last Duel, Blackest Night, an Amazon movie. And then we will have a conversation about Black people in horror films and Black horror movies itself. So again, find out what you like. And if I haven't made a clip of it, then you may have to listen to the total podcast and get to that point. I know, woe was you. You had to listen to us talk about awesome stuff that you enjoy. I know.
Y'all can sit through all this awesome content. It's great. Everything we say is great. Sit down. You know what? Your lives are too full, okay? Cut some stuff out. Don't go to the gym this weekend or for one day and sit and then relax and listen to us.
Absolutely. Or go to the gym and while you're on the bike,
sit
on the treadmill,
push up the heavy stuff and listen to us.
Right. And be pissed off at some of our comments that you don't agree with. And you can comment below about what you don't agree with. And then
talking to you, AJ, my brother-in-law, AJ, who goes to the gym every day.
I wanted to talk about Black people in horror movies versus Black horror movies. And this is kind of a free balling conversation, so we could take it anywhere you want to go or how you ever want to take it. So let's start off with black people in horror movies, Jason. Let's start with there. Like, what is your thought of growing up, or when you saw Black people in horror movies, or whatever? Just give us that whole diaspora of what you felt in the genre.
Well, growing up, there weren't really very many Black people in horror. There's always usually, like in most movies growing up, there's usually like your one token Black character. The stereotype is usually they're the first person to get killed off, or they're get killed off very, very quickly. I don't want to say like, Black is a monolith or Black is every single Black person acts the same way. I know Jason would say he does. Like, we don't all act the same way. We don't all have, but we have a cultural understanding of things we would do in certain situations. Not everybody, but a lot of us do. A buddy of mine used to refer to this as the nigga instinct. All right, because we live in a society where you go down the wrong street. Not even if you go down the wrong street, you go down the right street, and your life could be ended. Right? We live in a society where your neighbor can kill you, or you could go to prison for the rest of life over some bullshit. Right? So you live in a society where there's constant dangers, and that's just living out in the suburbs. I'm not even talking about people who live in blighted, poverty-stricken areas where crime is more prevalent because of this the situation they're in. So you have a sort of understanding of when something is dangerous for you and when it's not, and this is more so than generally people who have the world as their oyster, because I know white girls aren't afraid of nothing.
Right.
They ain't afraid of shit. So you can tell when there's a movie that has maybe a Black person who had just said something to the writer before they wrote it, because they will do something culturally appropriate, or maybe they might do something like in the Halloween movie where the guy's like, no, I'm not going to go over there. That's something we would have done. But in the rest of the movie, it's like, that's not something that the majority of the diaspora would have done in that situation. And that's when there's not very many differing voices in the writing room or on set or whatever, because that's just, I mean, like, I know I'm the goofiest, corniest fucking black dude on the, people have told me you act like all the time or whatever bullshit. And it's like, I know that me, my brother, who's the hoodest dude I know, and Tyrone down from the block would have done the exact same thing in this situation that this character did not do.
Mm-hmm.
you know? And so when you see like movies with just black characters in it, it's just the bare minimum surface level. Like, here is your representation, but we did not
Mm-hmm.
think of any to listen to any other voice. They're either here to die or they're here to say something witty and get the fuck out of there. Like the black cameraman in Scream 2 is like, I ain't fucking with this shit. I'm out. Which is
Shout out
what
to Dwayne Martin.
Yeah. But so when you actually see like a movie that is written by black folk in a horror movie, you understand. Okay, there we. Though I will say in Blackest Night, our main character is probably the dumbest black girl from the fourth ward or ninth ward or whatever. She's out there walking on the street by herself, and she knows she's not
Mm-hmm.
supposed to do that. She did it anyway. So, like, but like the thing is, like, she's like, I shouldn't have done this. I should not have left that party without my friend. That not to walk around here at night by yourself. That's number one rule to do. But she did it anyway because she was frustrated. She was emotionally, messed up. So it's like she explained it, even though that's something that most of us would not have done.
Right.
So yeah, it's just like you can tell, especially as a person of color, you can tell when someone has made the effort to like accurately reflect a black voice versus someone who's just put a black actor in as an interchangeable part in their movie. And the one thing I did not like about Halloween Kills is like I felt like the black characters in this movie were just put in because they were like, oh, we need more black people in this movie. Here you go. Let's take this character, this character, this character, let's make them black. And did
Right.
not rewrite it, did not understand culturally what was going on or whatever. And that is really annoying to me. And it's annoying to me in a lot of movies, not just horror movies.
Yeah, no, and I think, to jump with that, I mean, everything you said, I agree with. I think another thing too, a lot of times when they put black people in horror movies, it is almost, especially the older ones. The older ones, it's almost a feeling, a symptom of, to use a wrestling term, because I watch a lot of wrestling. Everybody know, I need to sacrifice somebody who people perceive as big and tough to make sure that my character, a monster, is bigger and tougher.
Yeah,
So I
that's
felt like always in the early days, it was always this filled with black characters in horror movies that, yeah, we getting you up out of here, but we getting you up out of here because we probably presented you as this tough, no nonsense, sling token, blah 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 blah, and then when you
you get
die,
killed
it's like, oh
easily.
damn,
That means
yeah,
that
yeah,
guy's
oh
even
damn,
tougher.
exactly. And I
Because
always felt like,
you kill the thing that I'm actually afraid of, so you must be even worse.
yes, exactly. And so I've always felt like that was the trope with it. I guess I'll ask a question and then we'll jump over to black horror movies. Who was the first black person in a horror movie that you saw that survived? Or even if they didn't survive, you felt was culturally written correctly?
um, this is gonna be stupid, but LL Cool J from Deep Blue Sea.
I asked that because I feel like most people in our age that is
It's
that
that's
is the
that's the
answer.
one. And I was like, what the fuck? He lived? What? How the fuck that happened? And
Right,
LL Cool
right.
J. I mean, like, as much as I love Sam Jackson, who did a iconic scene in that movie, you
Oh yeah,
know,
absolutely.
which is something that it's like, yo, calm the fuck down. We're all smart people. If we use our heads, we're gonna get out of this alive. And obviously, he gets eaten by a shark after that. But like, that's something, I mean, not I would say, but that's something I would be thinking. Like, why are we panicking? Like everybody, we're fucking scientists. We can figure this shit out, right?
Right, right, right.
But
Um,
yeah, LL Cool J from Deep Blue Sea, and then the only other one I can think of is Busta Rhymes from Halloween Resurrection, and the only reason that he even lived in that one is because the test audience didn't like him dying, but he still gets his ass kicked.
Yeah. Oh well, he does that kung fu stuff on Michael Myers
Yeah,
too. But anyway,
it was so
um,
dumb, but yeah.
so I have a different memory from mine because yes, most people I talk to is always deep. You see, or they talk about Ice Cube from Anaconda.
Okay, yeah,
That's
that's
another one
another one.
people
Yeah.
talk about. Mine is Kincaid from Nightmare on Elm Street 3. And it was like the sad thing is in part 4, he's the
He dies.
first one they off. But in part 3, it was like because I go into it with the stigma of it, and I'm like, oh well, yeah, the brother about to get it pretty good, because this is what we do. And so when he survives, it almost felt like a what? Like they let him get away with this, especially if you watch Nightmare on Elm Street 3. The main character Nancy from part 1, he gets off in that. Like
Yeah, she
he
gets
gets
killed
off in
right
that.
away.
Yeah. So, oh, and you knew for me, the brother is way long past gone. If they killing a white woman that was the hero. But again, like I said, I think that was my first one. Another honorable mention is when I first did see Night of the Living Dead.
Oh
He
yeah,
didn't survive, but he was the character
he
that
he was the
held
last one
everything together.
alive.
Yeah, exactly. So, which you got to realize in that era, George Murillo doing that in that era, that is just
Which
what?
also goes back to rewriting and getting a cultural respect in the movie. Like that character was originally just regular old white dude, you know,
Yeah.
and then they had an actor come in and try out for the part who was black, who ended up getting the part, and they made it like a black dude was like they like how would you write this if it was you in this, and like from that part you can feel like he's a black dude trying to survive in this situation. Like he's telling people, "What? Stay away from the doors. Lock that bitch up
Yeah.
downstairs." Like, why are y'all fucking being all like? He takes charge and like uses logic in this fucking situation. I'm not saying all black people are logical. Don't get me wrong, but like
Right.
we have
And
this.
his name was Dwayne Jones. And the best line in that movie that sets the tone is, "You may be the boss out there, but in here, I'm the boss." And I was like,
And he,
"All right, brother."
okay. I mean, he does. He smacks the white chick. Get your head together. Get your head in the game. Like,
Right. Oh
jive ass
man.
turkey.
Right. And I think what was it in the remake or reimagine of, wasn't it Tony Todd, the black guy in that one?
Wasn't he in wasn't Tony Todd in no, that wasn't Tony Todd, that was in Dawn of the Dead, was it?
I'm not quite sure. I have to look it up. But I think I want to say, because remember they did a colorized
Yeah, in like the 90s
I,
or whatever. I never saw that one. The fucking first one was
right.
about to scare the shit out of me. Just thinking about it.
But anyway, but yeah, so that was my first one there. And again, so it was, let's be real, I hate to say this, like for people who know about the black people in horror movies, that was a moment for us. Like, as quiet as this is kept, these were moments for us where it was like, what? The black dude was
Yeah.
the last one shot in the head by the white militia that was looking for zombies. Hey, that's a win. Like, that's how poor our representation was in horror, that we took that as a win, regardless, because like you
He
said,
still lived.
he was the last one alive. Yeah, so going with that, let's talk about let's move over to black horror movies, which I hate to say,
There's not really a lot.
not even I was gonna say, I hate to say that it's becoming the trendy thing now, and I don't think it's being done with the respect that some of it should be done. Let's put it on the table. When Get Out made a bunch of money, it opened the floodgates in Hollywood to say, "Oh, it's an audience for black horror," and blah blah blah. And now I feel like we're
Let's
getting
let's just do
things
our
that
bare
don't.
minimum to get
Yes,
money.
yeah.
So
Oh, it's racism. And the scariest thing, maybe racism white folks, or maybe not. But see this movie
yeah.
because, we,
I mean,
what did they do? We slow mode a popular 90s song that everybody likes. We made it slow, just like George. Like, it's trope.
they
It's
just
getting
copied the
tropey.
style. That was it. That was
Yeah.
it. And like even Jordan Peele moved on from that when he did Us. It's like it's not even about like even though his main characters were black, in Us, it wasn't really about like any, generational trauma in that.
Right.
Like it that was about fucking mole people taking over the fucking world.
Or even this, that like that people that imitated and took the archetype of it didn't even get that Get Out was literally saying that to them. That,
Yeah.
hey, you think this is cool and hip, you want a piece of it, so you invade it and take over it and pretend it's still that, and it's not anymore. Like
Like
you even missed the whole point of Get Out by even doing what you did.
that one with Janelle Monáe, the
Annabelle.
Antebellum. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was
terrible.
not it. Not it.
But
But
I
they were
guess
just
let's speak. Go ahead.
trying to copy the style. And I mean, I get it. It made money, copy the style, but like as we like to say a lot, it's like, there's more to this culture, to us as a people than our generational trauma. And even though
Hmm.
I like, Candyman, which, gave us generational trauma with a revenge ghost, I guess, you can
Right.
still do horror movies without having it, the horror be that the fact that white people exist.
Right. Well, I was gonna say, and that's gonna be my next question. Like, so I feel like a lot of black horror movies speak to the fears that we already have in our regular life, and when done well, they turn that up to 11.
Yeah.
It's a heavy metal reference there. That's when they are
Spinal
their
Tap,
most
everybody.
effective. Right? Yeah. And that's when they're most effective because we have those. Because and I always think back when somebody were to tell me black horror movie, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Mine is Tales from the Hood.
I was about
Like,
to say Tales from the Hood.
yeah, because again, it was one of the first time that we had saw things like that. And Tales from the Hood, regardless of what you want to say in
Scary.
its flaws and faults, the best thing it does is what we just talked about. It takes a lot of our fears and concerns and it turns it up to 11. I mean, homeboy getting beat up by the police and killed and framed, and like that is every black man's fear in America. And this was like this wasn't like a regular Joe Blow black dude. This dude had power and influence, and they still treated him like a regular joker in the street, and were able, it just that is why when black horror is done correctly, it's almost you're pulled in and it's almost visual because sometimes it's even hard to watch because it
Yeah.
it almost feels too relatable.
Yeah.
And that's the scary thing that like something that's been overly exaggerated to make a point, we don't even see it as overly exaggerated. We just see it as, oh shit, this could actually happen. And it's a different vibe when it's set in there. So I'm gonna stop and let you kind of go into that spiel a little bit. Talk about just black horror movies and what
Well,
do you get out of it or what do you think about them?
I think it also goes to the fact that, as I said earlier, like we have this generational trauma. So it's not like Michael Myers scares us. If you're going to make a movie that's going to scare black people, we're not worried about Michael Myers. We're
Right.
not worried about Freddy Krueger. We're worried about Karen. We're
Yeah, yeah.
worried about Chad, Like it goes to show you, like, for the general population of horror movies, you can have these outlandishly things, ghosts and demons and super killers, and that be scary. But in black horror movies, you need more. You need to come up with more than that, or more grounded than that. You need to, like, if Freddy Krueger killed me, I'd be like, all right, that's fine. I guess that's better than what was going to happen if I got pulled over the next time.
Right, right.
So like it's kind of sad that we can only do these movies that because I can't really think of any black horror movie that doesn't really deal with generational trauma. Maybe Vampire in Brooklyn, but that's not really
Right. Right. No, no,
but
no,
that's the thing is, like, if you're gonna write a movie to scare black audiences, just show them fucking roots, man.
yeah, yeah. And
It's
I
like
definitely
you
hit on
just
when you said that, like, you made a comment about like Karen and Chad being scary of that. Having a black face in a place that historically, through trauma and influence, has told us that black faces should not belong is scarier to us than almost any ghoul or goblin that you can ever bring up. You
yeah.
know what? Like, Get Out didn't like shock terror scare me, But the tension in scenes in Get
Oh
Out
my god.
were so
Yeah.
strong because it was this blackface, and that was a real chocolate brother. That wasn't none of that black as night. Oh well, no, like Homeboy is a
He
real
dark.
dark skinned
He Wesley
brother.
Snipes
Yeah,
dark.
yeah, he real dark. Yeah. And he's in this white space. Even though the white space feels accommodating, as a black man, you're always waiting for the one time either you act, quote unquote, into your normal character of blackness, or they act into the stereotypical cultural representation that we feel of whiteness. And now you got to deal with that. Like, you got to
Yeah.
deal with somebody asking you a weird question that you know is only being asked you because you're black. And instead of being like, bruh, like, I ain't here for that, you got to be like, well, you know
I
what?
gotta
You know,
perform.
right, yes, I got a code switch and make you
Yeah.
feel comfortable in a space that I'm completely uncomfortable in.
Exactly.
That's scarier than anything that you will like. That
And
moment of just that's terror.
and that's so what's great about Get Out is because it's not something like I don't think I'll ever have a to deal with ever dealing with Michael Myers, right?
Right,
It's I'm probably never gonna deal with a serial killer. Definitely Freddy Krueger doesn't exist. I'm never gonna deal with it. But in Get Out, I've been in those situations. I've lived those experiences. Maybe not. No one's trying to take over my brain and put another person's brain into it. But the horror was it. You know, when you get over by the cops and they ask, even though you were the passenger, they asking you for your ID, or when
right,
you're in a
right.
situation where they seem like they're accommodating, but they're saying things that you're just like they don't think it's racist, but it's like, yo, why would you say that to me? You know, and
Right.
like or you have to be in that situation where you are amongst people who don't look like you have to put on the act because you're their only access to blackness, so you pretty much have to be a spokesperson for every black face that there is.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
that shit is real and it's scary, and that's why that movie was so scary.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like,
It is a certain amount of it's a certain amount of I don't want to call it fear. It's a certain amount of uneasiness that black people already feel just being a citizen in America.
yeah.
That's without any apprehension. That's even in your own community. That is outside of your community. It's always a bit of unease. Because let's be real. Because I know white people like to talk about black on black crime. Black people don't
What do you
like
mean
black on black
crime?
crime either. We hate it. Yeah.
You mean just
We hate
crime?
any kind of crime or any kind of violence when you're not a violence or a criminal, like any of it. And we don't. A lot of us don't feel we feel uneasy in our own communities because of
Hmm.
crime levels. We're not cool with that either. So we don't have a place where we can breathe easy. Anywhere we go comes with a exception. If we're around our people and the area isn't as well
I
funded,
mean,
or we
I
have that
can't think
uneasy.
of any areas that are affluent, and there probably are out there, but are exclusively black or even
Yeah,
middle
not
class.
anymore.
For that matter. I
Right,
can't
right.
think of any
Really not
places.
anymore. Yeah, they're very little, if
So
none at all
if
anymore
you
in
are
America.
trying to live in an middle class, middle upper affluent area, you're going to be surrounded by other people who aren't like you. And if you're
Yep.
not, you're going to be relegated to the part of the country that they don't give a shit about, that they're not going to put resources in, that is going to breed a hostile environment because there's
Right.
no resources in that place. So there is, and the thing is, there used to be places where black people can be safe and just breathe and live their life. Those places were fucking burnt down or
Yes.
bulldozed
Yes.
over or flooded. All right.
Yep. But
And
yes,
it's like,
people don't look up your history of your lakes. A lot of
yeah,
lakes were
just
built over
any
black cities and
reservoir.
towns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, and it's not even like a conscious unease. It's just something that just sits in the pit. It's not like you're thinking about like, if I go to the grocery store, is someone gonna fucking you don't really think about it, but it's something that just sits in the pit of your stomach that it just is always there.
Hmm.
And it never goes away. Like
No,
no matter where you
100%.
go, it never goes away. And that's the worst part about like and the movies that explain this, I mean Tales from the Hood, all these, I don't even think all those the the little segments, most of them were supernatural in nature. The one
Right.
with the dolls is really scary, but
Hmm.
they all have to deal with that already innate fear of that was sitting in there. And people who succumb to that fear and become violent people, like those three dudes who were gang members,
Yep.
they end up like, oh, this is hell, So it's
Absolutely. I mean, I want to even grab something that you had said, and you had when we talk about Lovecraft Country, um, the scariest thing in that was the racism and not the monsters.
yeah,
And that was
by
something I'm
far.
taking from you. That's what you said. Yeah. And that's what it is. Like when we talk about this black horror movie thing, and you're right, like it's so hard to make those kind of movies for us because either you beat a dead horse with the trauma or the things that we know we already fear, or you try to go another direction, but it's not the kind of scary to us
Yeah,
because, like you said, we're not worried about a Freddy, we're not worried about a
yeah,
Michael Myers and all that. It has a fear of shock and jump scare at thing, but it isn't that thing that's going to sit with you as you walk out the theater
yeah,
because you don't have we don't fear that. So it almost pigeons our black horror movies into these almost boxes of like you got to have something that relates to the struggle somewhere in the movie. If you don't, it ain't real. Like you know what I'm saying? Like, and I
yeah,
guess is there a way that we can move to or our black horror movies feel like black people in a horror movie, but just made by black? Like, is it a passage to that? Because I don't know if it is. Because I don't know how do we get our mindsets to be like, hey, we should have that fear more with this stuff as well as the other stuff.
I think us, as I said, was probably the first attempt of trying to do that, where it's like it's black people in a horror movie.
Hmm.
Uh and whether people, I mean, I don't think most people didn't really like us as much as they like Get Out,
Hmm.
but because I mean, like, yeah, it was. I mean, like underground mole people, it's not scary. It's not.
Right.
It's like I for honestly, like as since I've become an adult, like as I say, I don't fuck with ghosts, but like I'm not worried about ghosts. Like I see a ghost movie, yeah, I'll be shocked, but the moment I walk out, I'm done with that movie, right?
Mm.
I'm done with that show. Moment is over, I'm done. Like, in good movies, whether it be like Saving Private Ryan or Forrest Gump, it's like once it's over, it's like you're not done with it. You're still, interacting with it and thinking about it after the fact of viewing it.
Right.
And really, the only horror movie that in the last, as long as I can remember, that that's still as an adult, that is still like I still think about and still interact with is Get Out,
Right.
because
Right.
that legitimately scared me, right? It
Hmm.
legitimately made me fear. And it's like, and that's because it played on the traumas and emotions that I've already felt through my life. And whether and and that's probably bad because in the end of the day, a horror movie isn't supposed to really scare you. It's just supposed to make you feel a little bit, ooh, I gotta scare you. You're supposed to bring you close to it, but it's like, oh no, you're in a safe space. It's just the
Right.
movie. You can go on and live your life. And that's why they're fun. Right? It's like, oh, I saw the serial killer, but I didn't actually experience being a part of being in the serial killer's wake. So it's fun. But so I guess I you you just got to get rid of that stuff and just make movies with black characters in them, and they're just fucking dealing with Freddy Krueger, and just
Right.
be
Right.
fun, and just be like, here's a jump scare. Ah, I got you, but this is fun. We're having fun. You know, that's the only way forward because, like, yeah, because otherwise, this generational trauma, it sits. I mean, it sits with you as much as I love Lovecraft
Hmm.
Country. It sits with me because it's real. The monsters aren't real, but the other stuff is real. So
Right. Right. So it's always an open seat and invitation at the N Word for Nerd podcast. With all that being said, man, it is about that time.
it's past
Man,
that
I didn't
time.
think we
Yeah.
would have a longer show than when Jaron is not on the show than when he's on the show. But I guess it gives him
Yeah,
something
but
more to edit when he's sick and
our longer
coughing and
shows because we have more content than when Jared is. I'm just joking. I'm joking,
I
Sharon.
can't
I'm joking.
wait
I
till
love
he
you.
edits this and hears all this. But again, thank you guys for listening to the N Word for Nerd podcast. Again, Jaron is missing from us this week, but he will probably be back with us nice and strong with his great, there you go, great opinions next week. But by always, guys, please remember, like, share, subscribe, follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor FM. If you're on YouTube, please remember to hit the bell icon, ding, so you will be notified when we post our silliness and shenanigans. But again, I thank you guys so much. Our numbers have been rising slowly, so that means people out here listening to us. So please remember to subscribe and again follow us so that we can get this to more of the masses and have some more fun. Other than that, my co-host Jason, you have any final words?
We're way better than Joe Rogan. Everybody, be kind, be considerate, tip your servers and bartenders 20% at least, please. And I love you.
All right. And thank you guys for watching. We will see you all next time. Peace.